Well, are you satisfied? Are you satisfied?
Yes, I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied.
Well, you ought to be satisfied. Thanks to your wrong answer on that quiz program, we now ended up with a year's supply of crinkly cracks. The breakfast food that makes all American boys. They ought to call it the breakfast food that makes you wish it was lunchtime.
That's the cab driver, Ralph. Let him in.
Throw it down anyway.
That'll be $2.60.
All right. Hey, here's $3.
Thanks.
Hey, you got any kids at home?
Yeah, I got 3 of them.
Great. Take some of these crinkly cracks. It'll make them all American boys.
No, I don't think so. I got 3 girls.
You know something? Maybe it's a good thing you gave that wrong answer on the quiz program. If the price of crinkly cracks ever goes up, we're worth a fortune.
Ah, stop that yapping.
Who's yapping?
You're yapping. All the way home in a taxicab, you were hollering at the top of your lungs.
I had to yell. There were so many boxes between us, I couldn't even see you. I must have been a nut to drag all of this junk home.
Well, what harm is it going to do, Ralph? We can use the crinkly cracks for something.
Oh, sure we can. I can have crinkly cracks for breakfast. Then before I leave for work, you can make me a crinkly crack sandwich. Then when I come home at night for supper, you can make me a crinkly cracks omelet. Then after I finish supper, I can stuff some of the crinkly cracks in my pipe and smoke it. I even got a better idea. I'll sprinkle some of the crinkly cracks on the steps. Then I'll get a little warning when your mother comes crackling up the stairs.
You keep my mother out of this. If it hadn't been for her, we wouldn't have been on the program at all. She got us the tickets, didn't she?
There's a big deal. So what?
So what? I'll tell you so what. My mother could have gone on that show with my father.
Oh, your father would have been beautiful answering those questions.
And just what makes you think he couldn't?
All I know is your mother been asking your father a same question for 40 years and he hasn't been able to answer it.
What question?
Why don't you get a job?
Suppose we take a switch to your family. Take that nut brother of yours, Eddie. When did he work last?
Eddie?
Yeah, Eddie.
Well, he hasn't been out of work so long.
Not so long, huh? The last time Eddie worked, he was a god at the World's Fair. Boy, that brother of yours is the stupidest person I've ever seen.
How can you look at me and say my brother is the stupidest person you've ever seen?
Oh, have I got an answer for that one. Listen, Ralph, you got your nerve talking about other people. You're no mental giant, you know.
Oh, I'm not, huh? Well, I'm just as smart as you are, stupid.
Yeah.
Don't forget, I've had 4 years of schooling.
And I've had 8 years.
Well, some people learn faster than others. And the proof of it is that I answered the 2 questions they asked me, and you didn't answer yours.
I asked and answered 2 questions right.
You did, huh?
Yes, I did.
But if you had answered the 3rd question, the jackpot question, then we would have won something. But no, you had to blow it. I was sure to guess the jackpot question. All you had to do was answer the first part of the jackpot question, and then I go with the final answer. But no, you couldn't have done that. But if I had answered the jackpot question, we would have got a Nash automobile, $25,000, a trip to Europe, a mink coat for you, a complete wardrobe for me, a house all our own. But no, you had to blow it. What did we get? A year's supply of crinkly cracks. That's not all. If we tear off the tops of the boxes of the crinkly cracks and send them in, then we get a complete map of the solar system. An interplanetary code ring. Plans how to build the rocket ship. A pressurized space suit complete with helmet. Then I can quit my job and the 2 of us can take a flying trip to the moon.
Shut up!
Don't tell me to shut up. Don't tell me to shut up. One of these days, Alice. One of these days. Pow! Right in the... Well, you certainly made a disgrace out of yourself tonight, giving that answer. I gotta face the guys down at the garage, you know. They were all watching in. What am I gonna say to them? What is there, Ralph?
What's all this stuff here? Look like you robbed the A&P.
On account of my wife's wrong answer on that quiz program, as a consolation prize, we wound up with a year's supply of crinkly cracks.
Too bad, Ralph. I heard it.
You notice I didn't answer my questions wrong, but when I asked her who was the president that followed Grover Cleveland, she had to say McKinley.
Too bad she blew it. You know, Ralph, I can understand that, though. I've done a quiz show once. I was so nervous that I couldn't answer the first question they asked me.
What was the question?
My name.
Well, you notice I wasn't nervous. I got all my questions right, and they were pretty tough, too. The first question was, name a state west of the Mississippi. Right away, I said California. Then I said, name a big city in Illinois. Chicago.
Yeah, they only give you 2 hints, too. Good evening, Mr. Crandon.
Hey, wait a minute, ain't you...
That's right, Happy Larry Barnaby, quizmaster of Crinkly Cracks. These are our radio engineers, Mr. Kensington and Mr. Simpson. These are our newspaper reporters, and this is our sponsor, Mr. Chambers. May I see your wife, please?
You mind if I ask what this is all about?
Now, suppose you get Mrs. Crandon, and I'll tell you both.
Hey, Alice, Happy Larry Barnaby's here.
Oh, hello, Mr. Barnaby.
How do you do?
Before anything goes on, I'd like to apologize for my wife being so dumb and answering that question that way.
Well, that's precisely why we're here. Mrs. Crandon, this is my sponsor, Mr. Chambers. I think he has something to say to you.
Well, Mrs. Cramden, I have an apology to make. For the first time since the inception of our program, we have made a mistake. The question that was asked you tonight, who was president after Grover Cleveland, really had 2 possible answers. You see, President Cleveland held office for 2 non-consecutive terms. Therefore, he was followed by 2 different presidents. President Benjamin Harrison, the name that Happy Larry had on his answer sheet, and the name that you gave, President William McKinley. Well, we said you were wrong, but you were absolutely right, because McKinley followed Cleveland's 2nd term.
Mrs. Crampton, since you answered the last question correctly, you and your husband are now eligible for the giant jackpot question, and now it's Mr. Cramden's turn to answer.
You mean right here now?
Yes, that's right. On account of this is such a strange situation, we'll record your question and answer now and use it on next week's broadcast.
Will you set up, fellas? Set up.
How about a picture of you and the wife, Mr. Cramden, huh?
Mr. Chambers, how about getting into the picture?
Oh, yes, certainly not. Just a second here, just a second. Here we are.
Oh, how about a smile? Oh,
We're ready now, Mr. Cramden. You'll stand right over here, please. Okay, fellas, you're set up now. Yeah. We're on the air. Now, Mr. Cramden, if you answer the giant jackpot question correctly, you will win a trip to Europe with all expenses paid, an Ash automobile, a $25,000 home, a mink coat for your wife, and a complete wardrobe for yourself. And here's the question. It has to do with inventions, Mr. Cramden. Now tell me, what did Marconi invent?
Macaroni.
Sorry, Mr. Cramden, you lose the giant jackpot, but you still have your year's supply of crinkly cracks. Good night, Mr. Cramden, Mrs. Cramden.
Good night, Mrs. Cramden. Mr. Cramden. Too bad you're not as smart as your wife.
So long, Ralph.
You're a sweet kid.
That's the way it is, Alice. I said you were stupid. I didn't mean you were stupid, sweetie. You're probably smarter than any woman in the whole world. Especially if you can get along with me. I was just aggravated because I wanted to win all of this for you. Gee, a trip to Europe, a Nash, mink coat, whole wardrobe for me. Take me 1,000,000 years to get you these things. That's why I was so, stingy. You know something? You must love me an awful lot. Nobody could stick around with a guy like me for any length of time if you didn't.
Ralph, I stick with you, honey, because I love you.
Baby, you're the greatest.